And Mark, let's jump into that next team, the Denver Broncos. And Denver Bronco fans, welcome in. If you're coming in on YouTube, make sure to rate and review the Onside Kick on Apple Podcasts. Every 5-star rating means the world to us, helps us get into the ears of more people. So if you can go and rate and review it on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, that would mean the world to us. But let's start off the Denver Broncos. Looking at last year, got to pull up the preview spreadsheet that we have. Offensive yards per game, they were 19th overall in the league, 350 yards per contest. They were 24th in points, 20.6. 22nd in defensive yards per game, 365.1. 13th in defensive points per game, giving up 21.8 points per game. If we look at free agency, they trade for Joe Flacco. They bring in Bryce Callahan, the cornerback. They bring in Kevin Hogan, or they re-sign Kevin Hogan, I should say. They bring in Kareem Jackson, another defensive back. They bring in Juwan James, offensive tackle. One of the also big new things to this team, Vic Fangio of your Chicago Bears is now the head coach of this team. And that's where we'll start. Vic Fangio. I know we've talked about him before. We talked about him when he got the job here in Denver. But with Vic Fangio coming in, you've got Rick Scangarello coming over from the Chargers, who's the offensive coordinator. You got Joe Flacco now, who's the quarterback.
He was with the 49ers, right?
What should, with the,
Scangarello?
That's right. He was with Kyle Shanahan. You are correct. I was mixing up my Californian teams. What should we expect from the Broncos in year one of the Fangio regime?
I think what you expect, you look at the Chicago Bears a little bit when Vic Fangio was there, especially looking like right before they went and were able to grab Mitch Trubisky. And you look at that team and you say, what did they have? Offense struggled, but that defense was solid. That defense was really good. And obviously John Fox is the actual head coach, so that changes things a little bit. But when you are looking at that, you're looking for a team that's going to grab onto the defensive concepts, even though they're a little difficult, pretty easily. They're going to grab on. They're going to get it. They're going to jump into that. People will have some frustrations when they see things like, why is Bradley Chubb dropping back into coverage? But you're going to have to get used to that.
Khalil Mack rushes. Why is he dropping back?
Why is it? He should never drop back. He needs to rush at all times.
Some people would say the same about Von Miller and Bradley Chubb.
Which is what you're going to see this year. But that's just how it works, and his team works very well. He's very much in my line. We'll get to the quarterback. I only need to rush 3 guys.
Yeah.
Very into disguising blitzes and things like that. Or making you think there's a blitz and there's nothing.
Yeah.
But anyways, the defense, I think, is going to be carrying this team. The question is what the offense is going to do, and that's why I love, and want to mention Scangarello too, because he is the question mark to me on this when it comes to the coaching staff. Ed Donatell is going to do a great job. Vic Fangio is going to do a great job. Those two have a great relationship together. The reason I'm concerned offensively is because I don't think Vic Fangio is going to care in the least with this offense. Now, don't say I'm saying he's not going to care. He's just going to basically say, I got the defense. I'll check in on this offense, make sure things are going well, but I'm trusting you to get this offense ready.
Yeah.
That's the kind of what I mean there.
Kind of like how you had Matt Nagy, hey, I'm going to do the offense. Hey, Vic, I'm going to leave the defense to you. I'll check in now and then, but it's your ship to run.
Exactly. And the question I have with that, and the thing that concerns me is, yeah, he was with the San Francisco 49ers last year as quarterback's coach, and, you had some time with Jimmy G, you had some time with Nick Mullins, right?
Or Mullen.
Mullen. And he did better than expected. But I don't think anyone's saying that 49ers offense was very good.
Yeah.
Before that, he was at Wagner. Then he was with the Atlanta Falcons in 2015 when they went 8-8. Before that, Northern Arizona, just a bunch of teams where you don't really care very much, and they didn't really do that good. He's bouncing somewhere year after year after year. He's spending 2 years in a place every now and then, but typically it's 1 year out, 1 year out, 1 year out. That concerns me for a couple reasons. One, is he going to bounce very quickly? Is my young quarterback, who we just drafted, we just invested, a significant enough pick into Drew Lock.
Yeah.
I think they are expecting him to be the quarterback of the future. We want him to develop and have consistency. Joe Flacco will be fine, but the young guy needs consistency. Are we going to lose you in 1 or 2 years? That I think would be an issue. That would be a concern. The other thing is pretty much none of those offenses have been really that successful. It reminds me, once again, to make the Chicago connection, just because of Ed Donatel and Vic Fangio here, of when the Bears brought in Dowell Loggins, a guy who was not successful, a guy who bounced around all over the NFL, a guy who everybody...
And then the Dolphins brought him in because Jay Cutler was there and Adam Gase was there.
Exactly. Everybody is like, I don't think this is going to be a good idea. Have you looked at the track record? Same exact thing that I see here. I don't know if this is going to work. Have you looked at the track record? I look at a guy like Cortland Sutton. He needs to develop into something more. And yes, you have a guy like Emmanuel Sanders there who's a big vet who can help him out, I guess.
But they traded Demaryius Thomas last year, now opening a spot in the 1-2 receiver core for Cortland Sutton.
Exactly. Then you have the extra question of Joe Flacco. Is he going to mentor Drew Lock?
No.
Exactly.
Have you heard those interviews?
Exactly.
Where he was like, it ain't my job. That right there is like, that man is not mentoring him. Then you have like the analysts who are like, it's not his job to mentor the quarterback. It's Drew Lock's job. Like,
someone's going to have to mentor this quarterback.
It was basically Chris Sims said, because he was a quarterback in the league. I was listening to his podcast, and they were talking about it, and he goes, is Joe Flacco going to mentor Drew Lock? No. But if Drew Lock has a question, he's like, Joe Flacco's not going to be a dick. He's not going to go, hey, rookie, go learn it somewhere else. But
right.
He's like, you got to understand, like, people expect, like, hey, I'm going to mentor this guy. It's like, if you're doing that, you're basically saying, I'm going to teach you how to take my job from me. And Joe Flacco doesn't want this kid to take his job.
Yeah. Exactly. Drew Lock's going to ask, hey, Joe, you know of any good restaurants around here? Yeah, real great burger place. You're going to love it. It's this red place down the street, got some yellow arches next to it. You go there, kid.
You got to be fun. Like Tom Brady. You just got to lead by example. Hey, kid, watch me do it, and you'll be fine.
And then the kid goes somewhere else and isn't fine.
Yeah.
But, I look at this, just enough young guys that I get concerned of if they don't have that consistency, because this guy hasn't lasted anywhere. So I don't know how this is going to be that different. And the fact of he's also not been successful really anywhere. So there's a big question mark on your offense. Doesn't mean there's not talent. There is a ton of talent offensively. Philip Lindsay was like the most impressive story on an offense
they had
last
him
year.
And Royce Freeman last year that were great stories from the rookie front.
And I think I expect more of the same. Noah Fant's going to be a huge safety blanket for Joe Flacco.
I can't wait. And I know that Scargarello was just the quarterback's coach last year, but if he picked up anything from Kyle Shanahan, could you imagine if Noah Fant had a season like George Kittle had last year? Holy shit, he'll probably have a better season.
Speaking of places where you've got nobody else to throw the ball to.
Exactly. But like, Noah Fant, I would say, is, yes, he's younger, but a better athlete than what George Kittle is. So, like, if he's even getting those opportunities, I think he could potentially have a better season than George Kittle had. And I know people might be saying, well, Ricky, either lay off the weed or put your foot on the brake. But, like, that's what I think could happen with Noah Fant this year just because of the system he's walking into.
Yeah, this is going to be a very different-looking Denver Broncos type of team. I'm excited to see it. I think that this is a team that's going to be a much, much better team. They already had a really good defense. They already had a great running game. Their passing game was average. I expect the passing game not to become amazing. We're not going to have the is Joe Flacco elite question again, but it's going to be a better passing game than last year. The run game should be at least the same, if not better, now that these guys have had time to sit, learn, develop. This defense is going to instantly become a better defense. The amazing thing to me, what does Vic Fangio do really well? Rushing only those who he needs to rush. What does Ed Donatel do very well? Defensive backs. So this is going to be a very complete defense. this is going to probably be in 2 years best defense in the NFL. What they need is to be able to develop the offense to complement it.
And that's the thing that I will say is different than the Chicago defense is this defense is a little, except for like a Bradley Chubb, this defense is a little bit older than what he was working with in Chicago.
But I think we'll see how that changes in a couple of years too with drafts. This was an offensive-heavy draft. They needed a quarterback. They got another weapon for him to throw to.
You're talking the needs were offensive heavy for the Broncos.
Yeah.
Because there was a ton of defensive talent. They just needed offensive weapons.
Exactly. They go get an offensive lineman as well. They were all about the offense, which is what they needed. In the near future, I wouldn't be surprised if they go defense, just because that's what a guy like Vic Fangio is going to thrive off of.
Also, I know this is off topic, but I'm throwing it out here on the podcast anyways because we've already previewed them. Jonah Williams. You mentioned it. Oh, he might be injured. Well, he's not playing this year for the Bengals. So, I mean, that was something that happened this week. I put it in the Discord, but I was like, man, so it begins for the Bengals, man.
It's the kind of thing where you don't want to say, like, hey, I saw that coming, but unfortunately we saw it coming. Poor Broncos. Or not Broncos, poor Bengals.
Let's look at the schedule, though, for the Broncos. And similar schedule that the Raiders had. They have the AFC West, NFC North, AFC South, and then their two random opponents are the Browns. They will get them in Denver. The Buffalo Bills, they will get them at Buffalo with Bills Mafia there for the game. And the thing I start with is the same thing I said for Oakland's schedule. Week 1's a winnable game. Like that game against Oakland and Denver, I could see anybody winning that Monday night in Oakland. But then you look at the next, for this one, the next 4 games? Chicago, Green Bay, Jacksonville, LA. Then the Titans, which could be a down game, which they could win it. And then you get the Chiefs, the Colts, and then the Browns, who could be a really good team this year. So to me, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 2-3 win team heading into their bye week 10.
It's possible. The benefits I'm going to give them, obviously the Raiders are the Raiders. Vic Fangio knows the Chicago Bears defense pretty well. I mean, yes, Pagano's going to change it, but he's familiar. He knows Mitch.
He's going to make some plays.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of a benefit there for Fangio to go to Chicago. He knows Chicago. There's also a benefit for him to go to Green Bay in week 3.
Because he knows that team.
And he's beaten Green Bay. His defense has basically been the reason Chicago has been able to beat Green Bay.
I mean, LaFleur being there might change some things, but still,
it might make it worse.
He knows how to play Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. So honestly, I would not be shocked if the Denver Broncos were a 3-0 team before they start to play Jaguars, Chargers. And I don't expect them to be a playoff team this year. I just think that they're going to probably be that team that steals games. I remember when the Chicago Bears had Vic Fangio that first year, and I forgot who it was who said it, but he was talking about the Bears and like, here's this team that is having a bad season. They're losing the game that we're playing against them. And they're still going out there and they're trying. They're still giving it 100%.
That motor is going to constantly be there.
And that's the thing that I think is going to help the Denver Broncos steal a game against a team like the Bears or the Packers. Steal a game against the Browns, if you want to call that a steal. Split with the Chiefs. You know, they're a team that is going to steal some of these games, when at the same time, that offense, it's going to let you down every now and then. And that's okay, because I think there's still some development there. And Joe Flacco, you guys know Joe Flacco's not the real answer.
Yeah.
So it'll be a little up and down of a season.
I didn't ask this, but I will. Do we see a Lamar Jackson situation? Like, let's say worst comes to worst.
Poor Joe.
Joe Flacco only has 3 wins heading into the Week 10 bye. If you are Vic Fangio, next game against Minnesota, November 17th, do you pull the trigger and say Drew Lock is our quarterback the rest of the year?
If Vic Fangio was an offensive coach, yes. He's a defensive coach. He's a conservative coach. So I'm going to say no.
Does he leave? Do you think he might leave that decision up to the OC. If the
No.
OC's running the offense,
I don't think he will. I think he's going to make the decision. I just think he's going to be a very safe. We're going to rely on the run game, and I would just want Joe Flacco to use his arm every now and then to throw it deep.
which could work out for him because that's what he did
Yeah.
before.
It's when he was most
the Ravens
successful.
were successful.
Strong defense, great run game.
Especially when he had like young Torrey Smith,
Yeah.
who could just fly down that sideline, put the arms up, catch it in the breadbasket, put it in for the touchdown. But this is a Denver team that I think that the big thing you want to see is that defense. You want to see it get back to what it was when you guys were in the Super Bowl, because I don't expect it to be that level, but you want to get back to that as close as you can. So if you see strides from the defense, that's a win for you guys. And then when it comes to the schedule, like you said, what games can you steal? Am I locking it in that they're a 3-win team by the bye? No, but I would not be surprised if they were a 3-win team when they got to their bye week 10. But could they steal a game against Green Bay? Could they steal one? You didn't bring up the Jaguars this time. I'll even say it. What if Nick Foles and them are not gelling week 4 into the season and you steal one against Jacksonville?
Well, remember,
because that
too,
one's at home in Denver.
that Nick Foles is a boomer bust kind of quarterback. Throws a lot of touchdowns or throws a lot of interceptions.
True.
So at Donatello, he's going to teach his guys. They're going to go and steal some.
And you've got Vic Fangio, knows how to play him.
Yeah.
Saw him in the playoffs last year. Did pretty well. Would have beat him if Cody Parkey could have kicked a field
Yeah,
goal.
it wasn't Vic Fangio's defense's fault that they lost.
No, it wasn't their fault at all. But any final thoughts on the Broncos before we move on into the Chargers?
Very excited to see what kind of things Vic Fangio wears next year.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think. Denver Bronco fans down in that comment section. Are you high on your team, low on your team? What do you expect from Vic Fangio, Joe Flacco in their first year with the Denver Broncos?